This episode of the Citadel Cafe is brought to you by listeners like you. Visit patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe to find out how you can become a patron and help make this show possible. This is the Citadel Cafe, episode number 391 for Wednesday, January 27th, 2021. My name is Joel Duggan, and the Citadel Cafe is where my friends and I hang out to talk about the geeky stuff that we are into. Joining me this week is Megan Townsend. You can find her at Megan Townsend on all the social media that matters, as well as Twitch. Same username. And she has been doing some streaming on the Citadel server with me. We haven't done a co-stream yet, quote unquote, but you've been busy.
I didn't. Yeah, I have been busy. I was just like, oh, is that a threat?
No. That's a promise. No,
That's a threat.
No, it means that I haven't followed up on the fact that I think we mentioned that we should do that a long time ago. We haven't done it, but yeah, you've been busy. It's been fun to see new stuff happening around on the streams here and there. And I know that you've been playing Minecraft, but I don't want to. I mean, I don't want to dive too far into that because obviously there's a whole other podcast called The Spawn Chunks where people can listen to Minecraft stuff. But what else have you been doing on Twitch? Have you been doing any other games? Are you still playing Spiritfarer? It's been a while since we've had a check-in on that.
I kind of took a break from Spiritfarer for a little while, not because it's boring or anything. I am actually really enjoying it, but it's more so just my brain has currently just been with Minecraft lately. I think having a new area to build in has kind of really given me a lot of inspiration, and seeing what you've been doing in there has given me a lot of inspiration. So I'm feeling the need to create right now, which is nice. I like it. But I will definitely be getting back into Spiritfarer at some point very soon, because I do miss it, and I would like to, know what happens in the rest of the story. So we'll probably, my goal is to try and finish that probably by my birthday. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna finish building what I'm building right now in Minecraft and have that done. And then once I'm done that, then I will move back into Spiritfarer and go through that again. And then we'll take a break from, because I think I need to get the creatives out of my system, for lack of a better word. I just need to get the build I want just out there, and then once that's done, I can probably sit and recoup and kind of get some more inspiration again for future builds while I play Spiritfarer.
It's funny, with games like that, with Oxygen not included, I got very into that and was playing it more than I was playing Minecraft. And while it's creative, it's also like a bit of a puzzle game in terms of like things are going wrong and you have to like patch the holes and fix the problems and make sure the duplicates are happy. And I've learned a lot. I don't want to start over, but I feel like, my next playthrough will be better. And I feel like I put too much pressure on myself sometimes, where I get roped into a specific kind of game, or even in Minecraft, a specific project. And that's kind of like all I want to do. I get very focused on that kind of stuff. But what's nice about gaming in general is that if you have enough of a variety in your library, then you can kind of play what you're in the mood for. If you want to play Borderlands 3 and shoot stuff and not really think too hard about things, then you can do that. If it moves, fire at it. It's not a hard concept, And whereas with Minecraft, just like, I've got like all these blocks and I have to make decisions, and like you have to there's decisions that you want to make, but you have to then reorganize which order in which you have to make them. Like you want to make a staircase, but first you have to figure out where the second floor is before you need a target before you can actually build the thing. And I find with games, now I haven't played Spiritfarer, but I've watched some of your streams here and there. And it's just one of those chill games. And I'm even like to the point where I was playing some games, and we'll get into this later in the show, where there was no goal. I was just doing it because it was pretty. Like I just, I was just moving around. Like I was just doing stuff because I just I don't really know how to play this game. I'm just kind of like dipping my toe in the water for different things. And I'm looking forward to building a library of games that are ready to go. And I guess this would go the same for media, television shows, films, that kind of thing. uh, just having a better selection of things where the decision has already been made. Like, I like this show, I gave it a shot, and I want to continue with it. But it's on streaming, same with the game, same with the film, whatever. And I'll return
Mhm.
to it when I'm in the right mood for it. Right? Like,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
really liked, I can't remember the name of it right now. Raised by Wolves, I think. It's the sci-fi show on HBO.
Yes, I'm familiar. Yeah.
Ridley Scott produced, I believe. It is weird, and it
Hmm.
has a lot of like religious overtones, and it's very odd sci-fi, which I like, but I'm not always in the mood for it. But that's a show that's
Right.
on my shelf that I'm just like, when I return to it, I will probably enjoy it. But I just kind of got out of it. I wanted something lighter because it's a heavy show, and I wanted something lighter. And I'm looking forward to having that kind of a library with games as well. So, out of curiosity, what are the current games on your list that you would say might branch a couple different genres?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Well, I think for the pure chaos of it, Among Us is definitely up there. I really, I'm gonna be honest, my Among Us streams don't do very well. I think they're always at a time where most people who are frequently in my chat will like they can't make it for those ones, which I don't blame anyone for. Or I'm playing with some of the people who are in my chat, like real life friends. Um, but Among Us is very very fun. I'm actually just looking at my game library right now to see what is in there. Because I have various gaming platforms too. I have um, Xbox and I have Steam. And, so I was just trying to find different things. Occasionally, I can't really do it by myself, but Sea of Thieves is something that I dive into occasionally. I will do that with my partner Fizz and or Colin. Sorry, his nickname is Fizz. So we call him Fizz in the media sphere. Um, just a silly nickname. And I have Spiritfarer and Ori. Ori and the Blind Forest is another one that's on there. There's a lot of them. There's like there I have Half Life and I have Baldur's Deep and I have or Baldur's Gate, sorry. Um, I have a lot of them, and I have it. I feel like I've been like overwhelmed with the amount of options that I have available to me. And also I have to be careful what I'm playing right now too, because my computer has not been in the best shape. So I do need to upgrade some parts of it before I can get into some of the games that I really want to get into. Like I have to upgrade a processor and graphics card before I can do some more like shooter based games, I think, which I'd like to get into. And my friend, another streamer friend, Sarah Luna, she did go by Ceremony. I think we talked about her before on
Oh
here. She was
yes,
at House
yeah,
a
I met
number of
her.
years
Yeah, I've
ago.
met her.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. She's very sweet. So she's rebranded from Ceremony because people kept calling her Sarah Money and she didn't like it. So she rebranded to Sarah Luna. And she has been playing a lot of World of Warcraft. And I'm like, I really kind of want to play World of Warcraft again. It's, I have the bug for it. So we'll see what happens. But right now I'm kind of just feeling it out and seeing what first of all what I can reasonably play with the equipment that I have at this time before I can upgrade things, and then kind of just chasing the impulses, I guess.
It's funny that you mentioned World of Warcraft because I have the MMO itch, but I don't necessarily
Yeah,
have the World of Warcraft itch because, well, one, I don't want to pay a subscription which is like $20 Canadian.
I
Because
know.
as much as I like World of Warcraft, it's changed to the point where I don't think it's quite what I would want from an MMO experience anymore.
Yeah, there is like an OG World of Warcraft
Oh, I know
now.
you can do. Yeah, you can do. We
Um,
did a show on it. You can do
oh yes,
the first thing, but that's not what I want either. I don't want something that looks like it was made 10 years ago, basically.
right.
And I know current World of Warcraft looks very good, but what I'm saying is that I would much rather dive into something like Guild Wars, or I keep seeing this thing
Mm,
advertised. I know it's not my cup of tea. I know it's not quite what I wanted to do, but it is an I think it's a Korean MMO. It's only like $10. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. but it's got a very strange name, which I'm blanking on it. But it looks like the kind of thing that I would want to play, with the exception that you're looking at someone, you're just like, I don't know whether they're a paladin or a sorcerer. You kind of look the exact same. So,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
so that kind of stuff I find a little bit strange. But I can definitely feel like the need for a couple of holes in my library. But at the same time, I know I don't have time for an MMO. Like I barely have time to
Yeah.
play something else outside of Minecraft. So the stream time that I'm going to be putting into, I want to grab another shooter, and I want to, well, not another shooter, actually, to tip of the hat to Brockett. I want to return to Borderlands 3 and continue with that. I want to find
Nice.
more time to do the shooter with Borderlands 3, and I do want to continue with Oxygen not included. It is tricky, and this could be a novice streamer sort of comment, but the business hat often comes on, and when you see how well things like a Minecraft stream does, I tend to lean into that. And it's not that I don't like it; it's just that when I sit down, and it's right now everything is aligned. I have been in the mood to play Minecraft, but also Minecraft is getting the most views and the most success and all that kind of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm also very self-conscious of not being known for being a Minecraft streamer, because then I find that that audience tends to only want that, and I don't want to be pigeonholed in that way, because I don't want to
Exactly.
just play Minecraft. And
I've been
so
so afraid of being pigeonholed. It's funny that you say that. I think that's why I've been so adamant in being like, I am playing whatever I feel like it, because
yeah.
I don't want to be known for a particular thing. And I know that like, because everyone says like, oh, you have to niche down and you have to play this thing that's going to get you known. And it's like, but I don't want to do that forever. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to. I don't know. I don't want to be forced. Like, because my worry is, what if I grow out of that? What if I like just like I'm tired of it? I want to do something else entirely. I want people to show up for me as an individual, not for the content.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if that's always like that's in a perfect world, but
Well, I
um,
mean, but it
but
helps to have those kind of rules set up, though. Like if you've got
yeah,
those kind of goals, it's better to have that kind of stuff. And I mean, and I've done it. Like between the Lego builds and the Borderlands, and switching some games up. I mean, I do tend to like more open world games anyway. So like the games that I play, like No Man's Sky. I mean, it looks very different than Minecraft, but there's a lot of things about it that are very similar in terms of the vibe. In terms of the gamer satisfaction that you get out of No Man's Sky. There's a lot of similarity to Minecraft, depending on what how deep into Minecraft you go. Um,
right.
but I have actually been spending a lot of time on the couch playing games, which is why I asked, because I have now Game Pass Ultimate from
Mm.
Xbox, and I had previously bought 2 3-month codes on sale over the Christmas holiday. I get it for about $10 a month. So it was about $60 for the 6 months, which is a good deal because it retails for 16.99 Canadian for people that don't know. Then I was about to redeem it, and Ryan Murphy, a friend of the show, actually he's going to be on next month, said, "Hey, don't redeem those codes just yet. You can upgrade gold memberships to ultimate memberships on a 1-to-1 ratio while Xbox has got this promotion running." But it involved sinking a lot more money into it, and I don't want to sound like I'm being stingy, but like I just didn't feel like spending more money to get more codes when I've already bought codes, if that makes any sense. Uh,
Yeah.
then he reminded me that there's still the promotion where you can spend $1 and get 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate for a dollar. At which
Oh.
point it just runs out, and I thought, I have been looking for an Xbox Series X for so long that I just put that out of my brain. I figured like, that's not, that offer is going to be long gone by the time that I get one. Nope. $1.15 with taxes in was charged to my PayPal account on the weekend. So I now have
Wow.
Xbox Game Pass Ultimate because I'm a first time subscriber for the next 3 months.
Yeah.
So now I have 9 months for the price of three, really. So I can't complain. And I like the idea of not having a long term commitment, because like once June and the summer hits, I might not keep the Game Pass up. Like by that point, I might own 1 or 2 games on Xbox, at which point it'll be fine. Um,
Yes.
all that is to say, I believe last week on the show I was talking about the fact that the Xbox was in transit and estimated, shipping arrival was February 10th. Well, I picked it up on Sunday. So
Yay!
yeah, so I've got that.
That's so exciting.
The Xbox Series X with the extra controller is in the house. I won't go over all of the details, but essentially it was at the Walmart. They didn't give me a pickup notification. I was in the neighborhood because I was already out getting something else, which I'll get to in a second, and I decided to pop in. They said, "Hey, if you don't mind waiting for a couple of minutes, we just have to process it, and then you can be on your way." I didn't get the young lady's name, but she was all of 15 or 16, if she was at all. And she was very sweet and very helpful. And she was much more helpful than the person at the customer service desk. She looked like
As they
someone,
usually are.
yeah, she would just look like someone that was working out back and just thought like, I'm kind of bored today. I'll help this guy out, you know, but she was very
Yeah.
sweet. She was very, very sweet. Either way, I have the Xbox, and I was coming home from Best Buy with my new TCL 4K UHD TV. So,
Mm.
needless to say, the last few days have been very couch intensive. I feel like there's a small Joel-sized divot, or a large Joel-sized divot, in the couch because of the amount of time that I've been spending there. And I'll get into what I've been playing and all that kind of stuff in the main meat of the show. But suffice to say, with Xbox Game Pass now, I have access to a couple of hundred games, and very quickly downloaded like a half dozen, and have flagged a few more for play this later. You know, when you're done with what you have, kind of idea. Because I didn't what something I did find. I spent often a lot of time just kind of cruising through Game Pass and looking to see what was available.
I
Um,
do that all the time.
yeah,
All
no,
the
well,
time.
but I also don't want my Xbox experience to be the same as my Netflix experiences, which it takes me 20 minutes to decide what to play, right? So
Right.
that was the whole kind of like motivation behind the question of like what games do you have like span the genres that you like, because I have, you know, racing games, I've got platformers, I've got shooters, and I've got adventure. And I only really have one or maybe two of each, uh, and really down to one usually. And the idea is that like I don't want another adventure game until I'm done the first one, right?
Mm.
And because I am a bit of a completionist, and I want that experience
Yes.
to be like, here are the, you know, 6 games. So rather than being in the mood for something specific, I can just be like, okay, what am I in the mood to play? Like what style of game? I only have the one downloaded, which means I don't have to wait for the download for the other ones to happen. So that means I'll more than likely complete the game that I have. So I'm looking forward to diving into that. But as far as a bit of a side note to follow up on our TikTok conversation a few weeks ago, I have I found a better groove. I feel like I was watching a lot of TikTok at first because I was trying to understand it. Like I was trying to get,
Yes.
you know, kind of wrap my head around how does this, if it fits into my social media consumption. And it usually is like a late night just before bed, or a first thing in
Mm.
the morning, kind of like while my eggs are cooking. You know, like I might scroll through. That's after I've read
Yeah.
like the news, to check Twitter for anything important. You know, Instagram to catch up with a couple of friends. But then like TikTok is like, okay, I've got the world news, I've got the friend updates, and now it's just like, okay, what's some fluff while these eggs are boiling? And what I found is that I really enjoy cooking TikTok. It is
Yes, there are some
remarkable
really great cooking TikTok people on there.
and
Um,
information heavy. Like you can fit a lot in
yeah,
a minute. To the point though
you
where you have to
can.
like go and pause it to like write down proportions. My biggest beef is that people say like, you know, garlic, ginger, salt, pepper, and I'm going, how
But how
much? How
much?
much?
But how much of it?
Yeah.
Now, some people do put their recipe in the comments. Like they'll kind of make like a thread of comments. However,
Right.
if
That's a
the
good
video
call.
does well, a lot of they make it varied. So there are some people who do that. But I think what some people have started doing, saying like link in my bio, all my recipes,
Yes.
and they put
YouTube
like a
channels.
picture with it or
Yeah.
something. Yes, or YouTube channels, and like, here's more in-depth things. I really like kind of more of like the ambient cooking things where it's not so much like, you know, you can kind of garner how much, like they're very simple recipes. It's like cut up an onion, a whole clove of garlic. Um, there's one, I don't ever think you see his face, but it's just a guy who's just looks like he's roughing it in the woods. He uses a machete for everything, and it's just got nice ambient music. You can hear like the trees and the birds. It always seems to be a nice day, whatever world he lives in. And it's always just like beautiful ambient like foresty food, and he's making like these gourmet meals, and it's like he has like a cast iron pot with like a lid, and he pours like coals over the lid, so like it cooks from, it's like warm from both sides, almost like an oven. And I have to see if I can find one. I haven't seen them in a while. I think maybe he has reached the cold point where he can't do this anymore, in which case it's not, he doesn't live in a fantasy realm, which is great, which means that he's part of this reality. I don't know. I was like, well, I want to be where you are, sir. But he's made some amazing dishes, like just really beautiful, and he plates them all very nicely. He has like a butcher's block cutting board that's just like in the woods randomly, and he just like cuts up things, and it's done almost sensually, for lack of a better word. Like there was a video of someone reacting to it, and he like was like rubbing oil on this fish, and then he kind of like gave it like a little tap, and she was like, oh, that's like, that seems very like weirdly sensual for food, but like it's a very finely crafted, like very nicely filmed series of videos that he does. It's very interesting. But yes, food TikTok, amazing. Bread TikTok is also very interesting.
Bread TikTok. I haven't gotten into like focused stuff. I've been doing a lot of stir fries lately, so I've picked up a couple of people that are really, really in depth sort of stuff that I just don't know. You know, like I know one or maybe two stir fry recipes, and I've just been picking up a lot of like, I guess with the lack of a better way to put it, I'm looking for like authentic stuff. Like I don't necessarily want everything to be deep fried and like basically order in takeout food. I don't want that. I want like a really good stir fry, or how to do like really good like pork belly something like that kind of stuff. Would be much better to do at home, and cheaper too, I'd imagine. Because I have the things, like I have a wok. There's a couple of things I need to pick up. Like I don't have so for some recipes that are fried, I don't have like those little strainer scoops, you know, like those. It's like a big wire mesh on a stick.
Colander?
No, I've got a colander. I'm talking about like when you've put the shrimp in the batter and it's fried, how to scoop it out of the oil. Like I don't have.
Oh, yes.
I don't know what they're called. I think they're just like they're like a sieve spoon or something, but they're quite large. Yeah. They're like the size of a decent sized plate, and I need to pick one of those up. Because I have a wok, like I have something deep enough that I could, you know, especially where I'm usually only cooking for me, like I could do something like that, to experiment with. But, so yeah, I'm looking into some more specific stuff. I also follow a couple people that do at home coffee brewing and tips and tricks and stuff like that. And that's been really cool, to follow that, it's been nice. I'm sure the same thing exists for tea and blending your own tea and infusers and all that kind of stuff.
Them. Yeah, I have seen some of them. There's some people I kind of found like coffee TikTok because I end up, for some reason, my For You page is full of a lot of reaction videos. So I see a lot of videos of people like reacting to these coffee things. So like some people will do like very, very nice, really beautifully filmed TikToks where it's like, here's how I make my morning coffee. There's no dialogue. It's just you hear like the clink of a glass, but there's like nice music underneath, and you hear like ice going in or whatever. And I ended up finding this guy. He does a really impressive Patrick Star impression, but he reacts to people making coffee, and reactions are very over the top. But like you can tell this guy loves coffee so much because everything that's added to anything, he's just like, oh my god, it looks so, like he's just like salivating the whole time he's watching it. And it's very funny. But that's kind of how I found tea and coffee TikTok. Because I the thing is, I like coffee. I'm just allergic to it. I can't drink it, but I like to watch people make really finely crafted coffees, and I'm like, how can I turn this around for tea? What can I do to make this tea based instead of coffee based? So I like to watch the process. But it all looks so good though too. I want to know what cameras people use to do this.
I found that a tricky thing too. Like I've been watching some of these videos. It's like, okay, some of them I get. Okay, yeah, you took that into Premiere Pro and did some very cool things with that afterwards. But for the people that are just doing some cooking stuff, in general, you can usually tell when you feel like you're too close to the person. It's usually just a phone that they've propped up on something, because the
Yes.
phone lens tends to make just you feel too close to the individual. Um,
Yes.
but and I'm assuming it's a selfie cam because they would have to use the front facing camera with the screen so they can see if they're in the shot or not. Uh, I just don't know how people do all the editing. I don't
Yeah.
know whether that's
Like,
live on
because
TikTok or whether they film a video with their phone, edit it on their phone because phones have software to do that,
they
and
do. Yeah.
then upload it to TikTok later. But like the level of editing that, 'cause especially when it's a bunch of jump cuts, like I mean, it's obviously something that takes longer than a minute to even record, let alone produce. And
Yes.
yet they've still managed to do some stuff. Now, when someone's, I can't remember what his name is. I do follow him though, but he's like the youngest person to ever complete the MasterChef TV show or something like that. Nice kid. I mean, I say kid.
Mhm.
He's young, but he knows his
Yeah.
stuff, and he's a little over the top in terms of like the kind of things that he cooks. But he's doing that because it's crazy, and that's what people want to
TikTok.
see. They want to
Yeah.
see him, the tomahawk, steak that's the size of his arm. Like that's the kind of stuff that people want to see him do.
Hmm.
But his video quality is fantastic. And now I get that modern cell phones have nice cameras in them, but I just don't know the level of editing and timing and stuff like that he does. He obviously records the whole thing first and then edits it together later because he does this brilliant thing where he makes the thing and he takes a bite and he says, "Oh, let's make orange duck or something." And then he continues on to do the cooking video. But at the end of the cooking video, you see him take the same bite, but it then
Yes.
cuts before he says, "Let's make, whatever the announcement is." Like
So it's
whatever
like a perfect loop.
it is a perfect loop. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
smart. It's very,
Yeah.
very clever, and it's clean and simple too. It's not too showy. It's a nice style of video, but I need to look into that more. I don't know if I'm ever going to contribute. I don't think I have anything that I don't already contribute on other platforms. The only thing I thought
Yeah.
about doing was doing a little 1 minute video of how I make pancakes because I think people would one find that amusing and maybe even useful. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, but I don't. But it's like one of those things. Like, well, then I'd have to film it with my phone, and like, I don't know. Like it just becomes more involved than I've planned to be in my kitchen because my kitchen is not set up for streaming at all.
Yeah.
But I could see myself if I had the space and if I had the gear getting into doing some streams. I know that people do cooking streams on Twitch all the time. Just to jump back to Twitch
Yeah.
for a second. So it's something that I'm curious about. I'm just not a big fan of being on camera, and it's
I
not that I'm
mean,
super
you don't
camera shy.
necessarily.
It's more just it's the added point of failure. It's like, I have enough trouble with like streaming and microphone stuff. I don't think I need to add like a video camera and lights to my whole setup.
Mhm.
So there's
Yeah.
that too.
I mean, I see what some people do is they kind of like focus, they have the camera focused on their workstation and not
Mhm.
necessarily on them. And sometimes they may like duck down and be like, "Hello, I'm here." But I mean, like, I don't think you'd necessarily, I think you've made enough of a presence for yourself on Twitch without a face cam that like I think you would be fine. So it was just people seeing, your hands or like your torso or something doing the
Yeah.
work.
And I've
That's
done that with the
enough,
Lego stuff
right?
too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So people know that you're like a real human human body, Um,
Not just a floating
but I
voice.
mean, like a lot of the exactly not just a voice out there in the ether. But I've watched a couple of cooking streams, and some people will do like a multi-camera setup and things. So if they end up moving to like one part of their kitchen, it like the camera they're on sensors or something, so they'll automatically flip to a different camera, or the cameras are on timers, or I don't know how they do it. I personally having multi-cam setups feel very stressful to me. That's really cool, but I don't know how you would do that without having to have someone like off camera controlling it, right? Or unless you have timed scenes or something. I'm sure there's obviously a way because people do it, but um, the very simple cooking stream that I saw one time was just one camera setup. It was literally trained on to like the workstation, and then some people were just like, "All right, we got a movie now. Let's migrate." And they would be like, make it a little fun dance. They would just be like, "Do do do do, we're moving" or something. They just made it really dramatic, and oh, we're going on a journey or whatever. And it just kind of like it's quirky, it's fun, it's cute, it's personable, and it's people are just like, that's fine. He just needs to move the camera, whatever.
Moving on into email this week, we have a message from Jackson with the subject line rewatching, rereading, and replaying. Hello, Joel and co-host. It is January, so I have started my yearly reading of Harry Potter. I was wondering if you have a book, story game, TV show, or movie that you keep watching or playing. For me, it's definitely Harry Potter. Just wondering if I was the only person who reads and watches things like this, or if you do too. 5-star for the show. Keep up the good work, Jackson. Thanks for the great email, Jackson. And I know you're the resident Potterhead, but I'll say I definitely don't have a book that I reread. I've been thinking about rereading The Lord of the Rings. However, I'm more likely to rewatch something. And I definitely have films that I have rewatched specifically over the COVID-19 pandemic. It's comfort food. Like it's media comfort food for me.
Yeah.
Definitely have seen the Captain America movies a couple times through, maybe 3 times, 4 times through. Most recently being, over the last year. However, the big elephant in the room is Star Wars, especially when someone hasn't seen them. Then I'm more interested in, and I have more fun watching them when someone that hasn't seen them. I don't watch them nearly as often as I used to, but I think that's probably because I grew up watching them all the time, because there wasn't the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There wasn't Lord of the Rings. It was just Star Wars was kind of all we had as far as our favorite films, that and Disney movies and stuff like that, as far as the nerdy side of things. However, in my adult life, Lord of the Rings is something that I would watch almost annually, usually in the winter, either around Christmas time or the fall is when I tend to like to watch it. I stopped doing that several years ago because I lost my big TV. My big TV died, and it just wasn't the same. I also lost the surround sound. Now that I have a new TV, I do regret watching The Lord of the Rings this summer on a small 32-inch with headphones. Although I have to say, I think for a big cinematic experience like that, I might want to save up and invest in at least a sound bar and a subwoofer. I don't think I want to get into the whole surround sound thing. I went down that road and it was a lot of money and it was cool, but I ultimately just felt so self-conscious in an apartment building that I was shaking the floor. It's great in a home if you can do that. But I find that for me, if I can't really hone the room the way that I want, then I'm probably not going to invest.
There's no sense. Yeah.
Yeah. TV speakers are a lot better than they used to be. And the TCL does okay. But I think that for sound mixes specifically, having a really good soundbar and a small subwoofer will go a long way for that. So I might wait
That's
for
exactly what Colin did.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
He's got a soundbar and a subwoofer, and he got his new TV, and that's
nice.
It's lovely.
Might have to pick his brain then about what he
Cool.
got.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure that so TCL makes 2.1 soundbar and subwoofer, and they're wireless. And I don't know about that. I know all the audiophiles in the audience are probably cringing, but at the same time, for just my apartment, I sit 6 feet from the TV. It's not something that I need some big robust full room sound. Enough will be good enough for me, I think. My fear with soundbars, especially wireless stuff, I don't want the audio to be out of sync with the video. That would drive me crazy.
Right.
And I've heard that that's the rabbit hole that you go down when you get into soundbars. However, to move on to TV shows, I have seen Downton Abbey in its entirety at least twice.
I do really like Downton Abbey a whole lot.
So it's not something I've rewatched a lot in terms of repetition, but it's got something like 8 seasons or 5. It's a lot. It's a lot of content. And I've watched the entire thing through at least twice. So again, comfort food. Did not do it this year, but I had other things that were on the go. As far as games go, most of the games that I play don't have an end to them, so they're less of a story game. Minecraft, for example. However, Assassin's Creed Black Flag, I've definitely played it through once. I think I'm on my 3rd playthrough. The second time I didn't finish it, but I got pretty far and then fell off again and then realized I kind of forget where I was and forget the story. So I'd like to kind of start over at the beginning. And I was only doing that out of impatience to wait for the new Xbox Series X to arrive. So
Mm.
I like Assassin's Creed games, and I like the Batman Arkham games. I think I've replayed one of those as well, but um, for story games, I'm not quite as deep into that realm as some people are. But I would say Lord of the Rings and Star Wars would probably be high on my list. What about you? What are some of the TV shows or books and stuff that you either approach annually or at least frequently?
Frequently. I mean, Harry Potter was definitely one of them. I think right now it's just a little bit too bitter, because it makes me really sad knowing how Rowling is as a human being now.
Hmm.
It's left a really, really bad taste in my mouth. So like, it's yeah. So Harry Potter was definitely one of them. In terms of books, though, there wasn't really anything else that was like a long form series that I would enjoy rereading. Um, but again, like you, I'm more likely to go back and watch something again than to go read something. Um, just I think at a time as well, because like I can pick up a book. I've tried to pick up the same book like 4 times, and I just keep getting distracted, or I keep like something else. Just keep. I don't know. I don't remember the last time I've actually read a book. Um, because I don't feel like I have time for it, which makes me really sad because I do really like reading. But in terms of watching things, because I can watch stuff while I'm doing other things, my roommate and I like to rewatch things occasionally. Like when Good Omens was first released, we think we watched that at least, probably like 3 or 4 times in like the span of a couple months, I'd say, because it was just nice to have on in the background. But I usually go and do Disney movies. If I'm like, usually when I'm like kind of feeling sad, like I'll go back and I'll watch like the old classic Disney movies, or at least like the traditional Disney movies that we know of as like traditional movies, like Alice in Wonderland or uh, Robin Hood, that weird like anthropomorphic Robin Hood movie with the foxes,
Nice.
and you know Snow White and Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty and like all the Disney princess movies. All of like the maybe not the I think the most recent and the most recent princess movie that I think I've watched has probably been Frozen 2. Um,
Was that any good?
I mean I liked it. There's definitely some pacing issues I think, and some kind of hand wavy lines. They're like, oh, we just did this because the script said so. But I mean, for the most
Mm,
part, the music though, I think I don't really watch those movies for the plot. I watch those movies for the music. After Let It Go became like such a phenomenon, um, it kind of like just built off of that. And Elsa has two very powerful um songs in that. We talked about this last time we talked as well, and it's like how like what is a nerdy thing that you geek out about, and for me it's like really listening to music and how music affects me. I I don't usually cry at movies, but I don't really cry at Disney movies. I was like trying to hold back tears while watching or listening to Show Yourself, because it's just such a powerful song, and like the chords that they use, it pulls emotion out of you, at least out of me, in like a really, really like kind of abrupt way. Um, Kind of worms its way in there, and all of a sudden you're just like, well, my heart shattered, but in a happy way. And because it's a very, very good piece of music. I really like it anyway. And so I yeah, there's definitely some weird pacing issues with it, but I liked it. It's a sequel movie. It looks beautiful though. The animation, oh, when you go back and watch the original Frozen and then go back to Frozen 2, you can see the step up in like quality, and
yeah.
like this just subtle detail that's in like clothing and like the textures and beading and things. It's amazing.
The issue that I have, and I actually liked the original Frozen too. I saw that in theaters
Mhm.
actually, but I haven't seen the new one just out of I forgot that it was a thing. But what I find with modern Disney films, especially fairy tales, I usually get taken out of them when they start to make modern jokes. Like there's always that side character that makes
Mm.
some pop culture reference, whereas they didn't really do that in things like Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty,
No, I
like
know,
those
you're
older films.
right.
Like and it's still a fantasy realm. Like it's not like they've put Frozen into the future. I enjoyed those references in Onward, the Pixar. I think it was a Pixar film.
Yes, because
Um,
it's kind of
well, it's
modernized.
modernized. Like, I mean, they're driving a
Yeah.
minivan and they're talking about D&D and like playing air guitar. Like, I mean, so the modern references are there. Same with Zootopia. There's a lot of pop culture references in Zootopia, which is a
Yeah.
Disney film. One of my favorites in the last
Very
10
good.
years, easily.
Very,
Um,
very good.
yeah, so like that kind of stuff, I forgive more. But there's something that just kind of pulls me out of it. Just feels forced when like Olaf is making some reference about modern something or other. And I get that
Yeah.
the jokes are in there to entertain the parents, and like that's fine. But I feel like you can get away with it in things like Toy Story or Incredibles a lot easier than you can with other films. Um, but yeah, it's there's a number of things actually. I haven't seen Soul yet. That's on my list.
I haven't either. I've heard
My
mixed
dad
reviews.
really liked it, and I was just like, okay. Like, and my dad likes animation. He just likes cool stuff, like cool stories and things. And if Dad watched it and really enjoyed it, I thought, okay, I'm probably going to really like it because there's going to be a lot of subtlety in the animation and the storytelling that I will pick up on, having worked in animation, that he probably wouldn't. So if he liked it, I probably will really quite enjoy it. But there's a couple of other things that are happening animation wise later this year that I'm looking forward to as well. Um, Moving on into what we have been watching, or I guess I should say playing, because I really haven't watched a whole lot with the new
Mm.
Xbox in the house. However, to touch base on Kim's Convenience, which I brought up last week, just a quick note to say that I'm still watching and still very much enjoying. I've just started season 2. I'm like 1 or 2 episodes into season 2. I really like this show. I cannot recommend it high enough. I don't have a really don't have a bad thing to say about it. There's a couple of characters and situations that maybe don't hit with me as much as they might hit with others, specifically around the car rental part of the show. But the core characters, the core family, especially Mr. Kim, like I am invested in this show. I'm embarrassed it took me this long to get on board because I've heard about it for a while, but seeing it and watching it the last week or so, it's not often these days that I can say I really enjoy a comedy and I just will sit down and watch an episode every time I sit down to a meal. Like that's just my go-to until I'm caught up.
That's
And
good.
yeah, no,
Where are
I
you
can't.
watching?
Sorry.
Where are you watching it?
Oh, it's on Netflix. Yeah,
Oh, is it? Okay, cool.
You can get it on CBC Gem for free if you're okay with watching ads every once in a while,
Hmm.
or you can get it on Netflix. And I believe you'd have to watch the new ones on Gem because they just started airing the new season last week. So they would
Okay.
probably be on Gem. You'd have to wait for the season to complete before you watch it on Netflix. But I'm only on season 2. I think they're currently filming and airing season 5. I think. Um, so yeah, it's cool. Like it's just it's a funny show, but it has heart. So you care about the characters, and then that makes them funnier because it's one of those shows where it's funny, but it's funnier when you get to know the characters. Like
Yes.
you really you don't necessarily know what Mr. Kim is going to say next, but you kind of know where he's leading you in the conversation, and then the punchline usually hits it out of the park. And it's not like a big like bump like sitcom punchline. It's a lot more down to earth, which I quite like.
It's cool. I'll have to give it a go.
So with the new TV, I don't have any real 4K content. At least that was my concern. I know that the TV is going to uh, upscale things. It's going to do all kinds of great stuff for some of my older content. But I think, unaware just how much is available now in 4K. And I started down this rabbit hole when I sat down, I think it was Tuesday morning, to like really sort out the settings on the TV and figure out what was going on. And I'm used to having to go into things and tweak picture quality and all that kind of stuff. But I've not owned a proper smart TV. The TV that I had before was just a big panel. It was a Sony from 15 years ago. And this TCL 55-inch TV will change the settings automatically based on the content it's getting. So if you're watching something in 4K on Netflix, then this TV is going to say, okay, you're watching 4K, and it switches modes. And you can see like it gives you a little symbol in the top right hand corner for about 3 seconds to say like, I've switched to 4K HD mode, or I've switched to Dolby Vision or whatever. And it's so seamless. I'm not used to it being this easy. And so the way to set it up, you have to find a piece of content that is generating that kind of resolution and then tweak your settings. And I thought, okay, this is really cool. So to do SDR, which is 1080p, you just find a 1080p YouTube video. Well, they're almost all in 1080p, so that was pretty easy. You set up your settings. Now, the factory settings are a little bit bright and a little bit, too, like a lot of action smoothing and stuff like that you turn off. And I did all that. Then I had to go find a 4K HDR piece of content. And at first I couldn't get the settings to come up. And I was like, am I doing something wrong? Can't get this to work on the TV. And I thought, wait a minute. I'm using YouTube. I probably found a 4K video, but not a 4K HDR video. So the quality control on YouTube, you have to be kind of careful and make sure what you're getting is actually the right kind of content. But because I don't have anything and I've never watched anything in 4K before, certainly not at this scale, I just found a recording of a aquarium or some like a recording of an aquarium at like a SeaWorld park or something like that. Like it was a big aquarium that they had, tropical fish and stuff.
Yeah.
And I put that up on the TV at 4K. And obviously I did end up turning off the motion smoothing, but it's on by default.
Motion smoothing.
I
hate that it's on by default, but
I do hate that it's on by default. And the TV does pretty well to say, like, if you switch it to movie mode for any of the 4K content, it turns off all of the motion smoothing by default. It assumes that you are watching a movie and you don't want that. Perfect. However, I was blown away, and people are going to be rolling their eyes like, welcome to 2021, Joel. But this video of these tropical fish with the smoothing on, it was ridiculous. Like I'm sitting here going, wow, out loud, alone in my apartment. Like it was, I mean, tropical fish, it's bright colors and the water shimmering.
Yeah.
Like it was mind-blowing. So like I'm really excited. I knew it was going to be good, but I'm really excited to see what other content that I can find in 4K HDR. I mean, it's gonna the TV is gonna upscale my Blu-rays. I don't have an HD Blu-ray player or a UHD Blu-ray player, but so the upscaling stuff should be fine. And so in my search for like, where do I get YouTube test videos for Dolby Vision and blah blah blah. Easiest thing to do is just to turn on Netflix and grab a movie that is presented in Dolby Vision. I didn't have access to that because my Netflix subscription previously, as I didn't have a 4K TV, was only for regular HD. So I did fork over the $4 extra a month to update my Netflix to, which is now I think $18.99 Canadian a month, to include the 4K content.
Right on, okay.
Yeah, because again, I have some stuff bookmarked that I haven't watched yet, like Into the Spider-Verse, that is going to look mind-blowing on this television.
It's gonna look so good.
Oh,
in 4K.
my God. Like it's gonna be
I'm jealous
ridiculous.
that I didn't watch it on 4K first. I watched it. I just watched it on like a normal, like I just high def TV, with no surround sound or like not a good audio system. So I'm kind of like jealous that you get to have your first experience with it on like a really good TV because it is such a good movie.
Oh, I've seen it in theaters. Like I saw it.
Oh, okay,
I saw
good.
it in theaters. But it's I haven't seen it since. So like I saw it and I was like, ooh, that's really cool. Save it for the new TV. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that because it was bright colors and like the 4K HDR. Well, I think that's in Dolby Vision, I think actually. But that led me down this rabbit hole of all the different things that are in 4K. And I know we were talking during the holiday roundtable that Disney is increasing their price in March in Canada. I think it's going up by $3 or $4. However, most of the content on Disney, unless it's television content, all the movies are 4K or Dolby Digital. And you don't have to pay extra. So Mandalorian, all the Star Wars films, Marvel, Pixar, they're all in 4K. Now, they might not all be Dolby Vision, but they're all at least in 4K. Which means that anything that I watch on the Disney streaming channel is going to be higher definition than the Blu-rays of the Star Wars films and Marvel films that I own. So, like, I'm really looking forward to Jackson's question, rewatching some of the things that I haven't seen in a long time. I haven't watched Star Wars since my I think since my old TV died, I've not watched the original 6. I have watched Force Awakens and The Last Jedi in preparation to going to see The Rise of Skywalker back when it was in theaters. But that was the last time I watched either one of those. So it's been a couple years for the new films, and it's been a long time for the original. So I'm really looking forward to checking those out. I might have skipped ahead a little bit, and the first thing that I actually watched on the 4K television, not even realizing that Disney was presenting 4K, I just wanted to see what it would look like, is the opening scene to A New Hope with the Imperial Star Destroyer crawl over. Like, yeah, it's going to be epic.
I'm excited to hear about your experience with this new 4K adventure.
The TCL, it is a true 120 hertz panel, but with the current HDMI inputs, they're not HDMI 2.1. So while it does 4K, it does 4K at 60 hertz, and it does 2K at 120 hertz. Both of those are much higher than the 1080p TV that I had even 8 years ago, and certainly a lot better than the 32-inch that I just got rid of. So I think either way, I'm going to be blown out of the water. There is a THX certified game mode, and I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's a dynamic refresh rate, I think. Anyway, there's technology in the TV for game mode where it bridges that gap. And so while technically the TV can't do 4K at 120, I would argue I don't know that my eyeballs would see the difference, especially because I don't like motion smoothing. And so the THX certified thing is going to happen for games when you want things to be snappy and smooth. And then when I'm watching all the films and all the other HD content, I've turned the settings, I've turned all that motion smoothing and stuff off. It actually took me a minute to get used to it because I was watching, I don't remember the name of the film. It's got George Clooney in it. It's a Netflix thing that's in Dolby Vision. And I kept on going into the settings to say, like, did I turn that off? I thought I turned off the motion smoothing. And every time I did, I checked it. And sure enough, I had turned off the motion smoothing. But the 4K was so crisp, I was just like, no, I must have left the motion smoothing on. So it's been a learning experience, to say the least.
Yeah.
But to get to the meat of what I've been consuming, because while I've watched a few things, and Kim's Convenience is what I've been watching on Netflix, it's not really showcasing the best of the TV. It's also not in 4K. It's just upscaled from whatever 1080p that they presented in. However, I've been playing Batman Arkham Knight, Forza Horizon 4, Halo, the Master Chief Collection, and I did dip my toe back into Minecraft Dungeons, but cross saves are not yet available. So I've already gone quite far in the game on the computers, so I don't want to necessarily do it over again. I might do some co-op stuff with a new character for fun, but I don't want a solo playthrough beyond the one that I already have going. I have installed, but not yet played, Skyrim, Titanfall, Ori and the Blind Forest, and Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I don't remember which one is first, but I will sort that out and play the first one first.
I think it's Blind Forest that's first.
I think so too.
I think.
I'm looking for suggestions for newer content because I was a little concerned at first. I started playing Batman Arkham Knight, and I was just like, I mean, it's cool. It's big. It's a Batman game. It's a fun game. Don't get me wrong. The mechanics are cool. But I was just like, this doesn't look as good as I thought it was going to. And here's why. Because I thought Arkham Knight was a much more recent game than it is. It's not. It's at least 4 years old. So it was actually made for the Xbox One launch and then updated, I think, a little bit for PC. So it got some high-res updates for PC, but not for Xbox. I went looking. And so as a result, it's like a 900 or 1080p game being upscaled to 4K. And because it's an older game for an older console, it was meant to take advantage of that hardware. And that hardware has been increased exponentially. So it's not been optimized for Xbox Series X from what I can tell. Not to mention that it's raining the entire time in that game. So everything just kind of has this shimmer to it all the time. And I realized after playing for about 20 minutes, I was like, okay, this isn't the TV. This is the game not quite looking how I was going to expect it. So that aside, I am really enjoying Arkham Knight. Did you play that at all? Did you play the Arkham series?
I didn't. I don't know. I think at the time I wasn't really super invested in Batman, or I didn't have the console in which to play it. So there's a reason I was kind of like always around like my sphere, but I never actually sat down to experience it. But I'd like to at some point. But I have a hard time going back to older games that look kind of clunky.
So
So we'll see.
it gets a little bit better as you go on. And part of it too was that I had not yet tweaked all the settings on the TV. And so I think game mode was still pretty bright. Uh, and and so what was meant to be a dark game was showing me like all the details in the shadows. And when I tweaked it again, the last time I played, I noticed the game quality visually a lot less. But it's gameplay wise, it's still great. Like it still plays very modern. It doesn't feel clunky. Not a big fan of the Batmobile. I know that was a big selling feature of the game, but I just the narrow streets of Gotham and I don't find steering and driving games, specifically when that's not exactly what they do,
Yeah.
to not be the best. And even then, I can find it be pretty tricky. Um, Case in point, moving on to Forza Horizon 4. Uh, Holy crap. I am not a racing game person. That I wouldn't necessarily put that at the top of my list, but hey, I've got Game Pass and I recognize the IP and said, I've heard people talk about that before. Let's check it out.
Yeah.
Wow, is it pretty?
Colin loves it.
Oh my gosh.
He loves it so much. He really likes to design cars in there, and he's just like, "I'm just gonna go for a drive. Just go for a drive with
That's what I
Forza."
did. Yeah,
Yeah.
I set a waypoint marker because I don't know my way around the map. I set a waypoint marker like way at the top and said like I'm just gonna drive to see what I can do. I don't have access to an Audi T26 or whatever it's called. I don't know cars. I haven't tweaked the engines. I haven't done a paint job. I just drive around. I've done a couple of races and I've done okay actually. I mean I've got it on like normal / easy mode or something, but I could not believe how that looked on a big 4K TV and how smooth everything was running and how pretty the scenery is and how weird it was to drive on the left hand side of the road because the whole thing's set in the UK, right? So if you're on the right hand side, there's oncoming traffic, and it's just like, oh crap, right?
Yeah.
And I also have zero experience driving over 100 kilometers an hour, maybe 110 on the highways around here, but that's it. So to go and the way that they introduced the game, which is really really smart. The game's got a bunch of different modes, and while they're running the credits, they put you behind the wheel of several different cars in different modes. You start off in like a Bugatti, and then you get on into like an off-road truck, and then you're in like a roadster, like the off-road races that they do in the UK. And then in the last one, I don't remember what it was. I think you're back down to a street race or something like that. Um, but my gosh, it's just like you are off to the races in no time in that game. And then they start to give you the tutorial about how to do things and whatever. I do find that the lack of instruction is kind of hard, because I didn't know what to do, where to go. But I'm realizing that I just kind of have to explore and kind of like listen to the audio cues. I love the fact that they have this huge lists of names. And if you can find your name, then the voiceover character that runs you through the circuit and the racing festival will call you by name. So Joel was on the list. So I'm just kind of like, she's like, "Hi Joel, welcome to," and I was like, she's talking to me. Like it sounds so silly, but it does really make a difference, in terms of the immersion. And I am surprised, like you said about Colin, like I will just sit down for 20 minutes on a lunch break and just drive around
Drive.
just to
Yep.
try to get good. I may have taken out a lot of fences and stone walls, and a tree might have taken me out at a certain point.
That's me. I just
Yeah,
drive into everything. I'm so bad at like
it's hard.
controlling steering and driving games. Like I'm so bad at it because I think it's also depending on the controllers that you have. I find the reaction is not quite as intense. So like I find I have to like if I want to turn right, I kind of like overshoot my turn or I don't turn fast enough or the controller actually does not allow me to turn at the speed I need to. So it's like the actual control, like the what's the word I'm looking for? Calibration is off
Right.
for like turning, or maybe I'm also just really terrible at driving, but or it's like it's too like you can turn your Joy-Con like the slightest little bit, and all of a sudden you're like fishtailing. Like you can just try to like
Yeah.
adjust it, and it's just like, oh, I'm fishtailing, and it's like it's really hard to find the balance of things.
I think the biggest thing that I've learned about Forza so far is the brakes are really harsh. And even though I've
Mm,
got it set up to mimic ABS brakes, I still have to just gently tap them. And something
yeah.
that I didn't realize, I was following the racing path where they put like the blue arrows on the road. You're supposed to follow the path. And when you turn a corner, they turn yellow and then they turn red. And I thought, like, okay, sharp turn coming up. Good to know. You know, I've seen that in other games. Uh, except for out of just happenstance, they didn't tell me this, or if they did, I missed it. By the way, pet peeve about games: if you put text on screen that's important, let me click it to make it go away.
Yes.
Because very, very often I am not done reading it before it disappears. At which point I press X to do this, and then it's gone. It's like, well, but just I needed to know that, So that kind of stuff is frustrating. But I realized out of just like trying to slow down and not crash into things, because I was noticing that like I don't know whether you get dinged money or stuff when you crash into things, but there's some sort of motivation obviously to not crash into everything. Um, Despite the fact that your car will take damage, but then I've never had to repair the car. So I don't know if it's just like a visual thing of like, you should really try not to bump into the wall, because over time we're going to crack your windshield and that's not going to be a good visual experience for you driving.
Yeah.
Um, so what happens is if the arrows are yellow and red, you're going too fast to take that turn. And so you have to brake until the arrows are, I think I can take turns when they're just yellow, like just a little bit yellow. But if they're bright yellow or red, you're going to hit the wall. And so I realize now that, there's a certain amount of braking that has to happen for some of these corners. And it's just a matter of getting used to, I'm imagining different cars, different setups, like you say about Colin, like tweaking his car. And I don't know anything about cars. So I like the fact that it's all real language as opposed to Mario Kart, where it's just like, these thin wheels will make you go faster. It's like, sweet. Okay. That's all I need to know. Right. Whereas this, it's like, hey, do you want the, insert 3 different brand names of tires here? It's like, I don't know. Like, I've got no clue. So it's cool that I
Yeah.
imagine gearheads that really know a lot about cars have an awful lot of fun with Forza. But
Oh, yeah, it's very elaborate in what you can do with it,
it's
which
just
is
crazy.
nice.
It's really, really fun. Uh, Moving on to the Master Chief Collection, I only just started playing this last night. I reached out to Ryan a little bit to say like, hey, like what order should I play these in? Because I know that there's a prequel and I know that there's all this kind of stuff. I have played a good chunk of the first Halo game, but it's been a very, very long time. And I know it's only the first one. I'm sure that the mechanics will get better, but not a big fan of it so far. It's been updated. The graphics have all been updated to
Yes.
for like an anniversary edition, so it doesn't look like garbage. Uh, but it's just not quite what I want in a shooter. However, my last shooter experience was Borderlands 3, which is a brand new game on a PC with a mouse and keyboard. And I remember playing the very first Borderlands for the first time on the Xbox 360. So I can do the Xbox controller shooters. I just feel like I'm used to maybe the mouse at present. And so Halo, and also the original Halo Combat Evolved, is the mechanics of shooting is probably not going to be the best. Even if they've updated a little bit, it's still not going to be like a modern. Like once I get to Halo 4, I'm probably going to have a much better time. I enjoy it for what it is, and even though the graphics have been updated, considering how old Combat Evolved is, I was pretty impressed by the immersion in the story so far. It's been pretty fun. I mean, granted, I was really just escaping the ship and blowing some stuff up, but still, I mean, I'm on board. I'm on board to as a bit of a rite of passage. I think as like an Xbox player, I think I'll continue with it. As I mentioned, I played a little bit of Minecraft Dungeons. Boy, howdy, does it look pretty, but I didn't do a lot because I didn't want to do something on my own without, like, I didn't want to replay stuff I've already done. So that was not high on the list.
Is it worth playing? at all, do you think, Minecraft Dungeons? I haven't seen you play it on stream, so I'm not sure if it was a stream thing you were doing or
Oh,
um if it was like just something you were doing on your own time or like I just wasn't like because I've been hearing mixed things about it. And some people really, really like it and some people find it kind of difficult to get into. So I'm just wondering your thoughts on it because I've been looking I think for like I like the concept of it, how it's kind of like a little adventure thing.
100% worth it.
Yeah.
Way more fun with friends.
Yes.
And I enjoyed my playthrough on stream. The problem that I have is I find that the final boss is unbalanced and punishing. And I could be
Okay.
just bad luck, but it's a combination of the bad luck of dying trying to kill this guy 3 times in a row. Things like being pushed off the edge of something and
Mm,
or doing a jump and you thought you landed it, but the game says nope, and then pushes you off the block and says no, you really didn't land that jump that you clearly did, and that I found super frustrating. I don't like that experience. That combined with, I think I was around the same time I started working on the modern city,
okay.
and so like something else caught my attention. It might have also been
Mm,
Borderlands 3. Like I don't remember what it was, but something else rose to the occasion. I really only have time to stream one other game other than Minecraft. Like I can't do 3 or 4.
right.
It's just Minecraft and then
Right.
whatever else. And so I really like it. It's a lot of fun. The top down stuff is great. It's got a great easy to pick up, hard to master sort of vibe. The
Mhm.
gameplay is really straightforward. The depth comes from what gear and what artifacts are you going to roll with? Like, are you going to use speed boots? Are you going to use a big axe? Are you going to use a bow and arrow? Are you going to use a wizard hat? Like what is it?
Right.
How? And the thing is, like, you don't have to decide on a class. How you play depends on what gear you equip. Simple as that.
Okay, that's cool.
You don't like being a wizard? Pick up a sword. Now you're no longer a wizard. Or maybe you're a wizard with a sword. Like, it really plays however you want. My
That's
issue
cool.
with Minecraft Dungeons on the Xbox is that I've already played to the last level of the main game on the PC, and I don't want to do it over again. Solo, I will
Yeah.
100% do it with somebody else, right? I'd love to walk anybody through it, or not walk anybody through it because I'm not that familiar with it. But like, I would do it again for fun with a friend.
Mhm.
But my solo playthrough is at the end of the first difficulty level. I'd like to beat that and then move on to the DLC. But I just haven't had the time slash interest to go and beat my head against the last boss wall. I think we've talked about that on the show before about punishing bosses and things, and
Yeah.
it's just not my bag. And again, it could be just bad luck because there's other bosses in the game, and one of them took several tries, but it was difficult in a good way.
Okay.
Then the other two, the cauldron, I can't remember the name of the cauldron. There's a cauldron and there's a redstone monster. And the cauldron, I died the first time, beat it the second time. Redstone monster, died the first time, beat it the second time. So it's like
Mm.
you die, you learn, you win. And I was like, that's a progression I can kind of get behind.
Yes.
The skeleton boss in the desert temple, I think it was 3 times, but like one of them I just got smoked. One of them it was my mistake. I was like, all right, fine. I knew it going in. I knew I screwed up. And then I had to change my strategy, and I ended up beating it the third time. And I think it was a separate stream. Like I think I actually ended the stream, and then I came back the next day fresh and just killed it the first time.
Right.
So like it's just there. Those have been satisfying things, but for whatever reason, the end boss it just takes so long to get through in the level, and then to have you be thrown off the edge of the level at the very last second. It's just
Mm.
it's not fun for me. But that is just one very small part of a very broad game. And once you get through that, there's oh my gosh, there's tons of DLC. There's like Howling Peaks. There's the Jungle DLC. There's now there's seasonal events. So like over the holidays, they had like come in and play and everything's dark at night or everything's frozen or whatever, and then you get extra bonus gear. It's kind of like end game stuff. If you've done all the things that you can do as far as the levels, then every couple months they're opening up new rewards for like time trials and beat this level, but all the bad guys have got like extra health and just stuff like that, and it just
That's
adds.
cool.
Yeah, no, it adds a lot of stuff to it.
I like community event stuff like that.
Yeah, and the times that I've played with like Pixel Riffs, I had a great playthrough with with Pixel Riffs and Exumavoid from Hermitcraft. We interviewed
Hmm.
him on the Spawn Chunks, and then afterwards he's like, "What are you boys doing later? Do you want to come play some dungeons?" And it wasn't streamed. We just kind of hung out and played. It was a riot. It was a really fun time. And so
That sounds like a lot of fun,
yeah,
actually.
and I'd love to do it with people from our community, especially now that I have an Xbox and I can kind of like couch game and not worry about like streaming it. Like it's just as a fun
Yeah.
hangout, you know?
Is it cross compatible?
Yep. Yep. Crossplay
Oh,
was live
perfect.
as of December. So between PC, Switch, console for Xbox, and I think that's it.
Rad.
Yeah.
I would really like as like a community game thing because there's so many amazing people within because we have like joint communities.
Hmm.
But there's so many people that I would love to just get together to play games other than Minecraft with. And I know that someone had been threatening about trying to like get people involved in a Among Us stream or not stream like a game. Sorry, streaming's on the brain of it evidently. Because it is a lot of fun when you get like a good crowd of people going. It can be um, hilariously entertaining, and I don't know. I always have a really good time with it, and I would like a chance to hang out with more community people and play Among Us. And there's a new. I don't know if it's available on. I know Among Us is available on Xbox, and it is cross compatible or crossplay is there.
Yes.
Um, and I don't know if it's available on the Xbox, but I know there's like proximity chat where like if someone is near you in the game, they can actually hear you like hear your mic. Otherwise, you have to mute your mic at certain points. I'm sure you've seen some streams with it and everything, but it's a lot of fun, and I think it would be a fun like community thing to do at some point down the line.
But yeah, I'd definitely be on board for that. Looking to do more community stuff, which I think is great.
Yes.
I like that push. Because I need it because I get so busy that I tend to just like all work all the time, and I
Hmm.
have downtime, but I tend to take downtime away from computers, and so going into something like that would be really fun. Speaking of suggestions, though, if anybody that's listening has specifically newer games that would be good in 4K, so I'm not going to rush out right now and buy something like Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I know it has great reviews, but I I just got the Xbox and the TV, so the Xbox Game Pass is kind of like where it's at for me. And so
Hmm.
there's a lot of games on there, and some of them are not old. But if you have anything that you specifically really enjoy, that would be great to showcase on like a 55-inch 4K TV and an Xbox Series X. Then let me know because I am definitely out of the gaming loop as far as consoles go, as far as Xbox go, and I'd be happy to get some suggestions. Moving on into the Internet Minute, which is, of course, brought to you by you. The Citadel Cafe is 100% listener supported. If you're getting value out of the show, please consider putting a little bit of value back into it. You can become a member at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe, where joining at any level will get you an invite to the members only Discord server. There are multiple levels to choose from, and that include rewards like Discord roles and bonus audio. There's an episode of bonus content with Megan and I from last weekend talking about the Citadel Minecraft server. You can check out everything at patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Patron count is currently at 21, which I believe is up one from last month, so yay. But
Yay.
if you want to be 22, nothing's stopping you. Just head on over to patreon.com/the Citadel Cafe. Check out the levels and join where you would like to fit in. As a programming note, the Patreon page should now be showing local currency. As long as your currency is available on the platform, things like Canadian dollars, US dollars, the euro, and the British pound is how you will see the amount chosen. If it looks weird, it's because the base amount and how the Citadel Cafe has been set up is in US dollars. So if you are looking at a $1 per show amount and it looks like a lot more than that or a bit more than that, that's Patreon kind of like figuring out one, the exchange rate, and two, Patreon's fee, I think, because it's definitely not the same as the exchange rate. They kind of go up in round increments. So if like the exchange rate is like say $1.37, you might see $1.50 or something Canadian on the page. If you have any questions, please feel free to either grab me on Twitter, it's at Joel Duggan, or send me an email, joelduggan.com. Probably the easiest way to reach out and contact me should you need to. Or, of course, you could just email the podcast. But I knew this was coming, but I wanted to make sure people knew that it was a plan that Patreon had. I believe that they have data that says that patrons prefer to see things in their own currency. I don't know if that's particularly how I would want to go, but I can't make, they can't make the decisions for everybody all of the time, right? Like they have to kind of say,
Yeah.
okay, look, the vast majority would prefer this. This is what's happening. They did send me a heads up. I know I got a notification, I think in the fall saying like, by the way, you can turn this on if you want right now, but it will be,
Default.
default going forward in the future.
I did have a question about Patreon because I've been seeing this about like online how Patreon has kind of changed their billing structure. Because I know before I would like if someone decided to be a patron, they'd typically be billed at the first of every month. So if you signed up, say at the end of January, you'd automatically be billed for the 1st of February. So it looked like you were getting billed twice faster or something. Like it was like you had a secondary bill coming out a little sooner. Um, but I know that they've gone more to like it's a month based on when someone becomes a patron. Have you noticed that? Like, is that a change that you're aware of, or is that something that you've noticed as a creator causing issues or anything?
I don't notice it very much because most of the content that I produce is episode based. So, for example, with the Citadel
Mm-hmm.
Cafe and the Spawn Chunks, we charge patrons based on per episode.
Okay.
And that is per episode since they have become a patron. So if you join in the middle of January, there's only 2 more shows before the January is over. So when you get your dollar per show bill from Patreon, it's $2 for the first month. In the next
Right.
month, if there's 4 shows, then it's $4 because you've been around for 4 shows that you've decided to
Okay.
support. That's on a
So it's like a floating amount.
per episode Patreon page. Now,
Okay.
there are Patreon pages that don't do that, like my personal Patreon page for supporting the streaming work that I do. That is a per month. And you can set as a creator which fees you want charged and if you want them to be charged up front. So if someone says, I want to support Joel, but I also want to play on a Minecraft server with a bunch of really like-minded nerdy people, then they choose the $10 amount and it charges them immediately. And then they have immediate access to Infinity Cove. The only time that I have to explain that to people sometimes where it gets a little bit hairy is if someone joins on the 25th of June, or January, then they're billed the $10 for the access. And then they're billed again in February. I don't run into it a lot because most people that are willing to do that understand. Like they understand that, it's a monthly fee. Patreon rolls this over once a month and I'm joining at the end of the month. I have to actually go back and look. I haven't read this in a while, but the description of the Infinity Cove tier might have a little asterisk that says, by the way, to get the most out of your month, like join at the beginning of the month as opposed to the end. That sort of thing.
I just know I've seen some people kind of express some frustrations about it, how creators could be like, for billing purposes for my business, it was easier for me to say like, okay, yes, I have this many patrons at the start of the month, like on February 1st, I have this many. And I've seen from actual patrons being like, I liked it when all of the when all the Patreons that I was supporting, I liked how I had a clean, tidy bill coming out at the first of every single month as like my Patreon budget. And now that I don't know if it's a default now for some creators or for most creators, but if you sign up, say January 27th, you're not getting billed again until February 27th. So it's a month from the time that you signed up, which makes sense. But then from like the way Patreon was usually structured was that you would be billed at the first of every single month. So I've seen it go both
I've
ways.
not seen that change. All of my Patreon bills are still on one bill at this top of the month. So, I feel like I would have heard about that.
Unless that's something that's rolling out.
I don't know.
Yeah. I just remember seeing my Twitter feed kind of blow up about it and get a little frustrated. So unless it's been scrapped recently or whatnot, but
yeah, the problem with that is that it could be someone getting it wrong.
I wanted to ask because you're kind of like my Patreon encyclopedia. So
I've not had any information from Patreon saying, hey, by the way, we're changing this. And they're usually pretty good about getting creators about 3 months heads up about big changes like that. Because that would suck. From my perspective, I do not want to track 100 different people being billed at different times, and when that money comes into me,
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
interested at all.
And that was my worry for you when I saw it. I was like, "Whoa, that's gonna be terrible from a business perspective."
I mean, at the same time, I have some misgivings, or at least some misunderstandings about why it's better to have local currency. Um, while it's good to, I guess, diversify, it's also just like I kind of know what a US dollar is. I think the whole world kind of does, because so
Mm.
much of it is US in terms of the online market, that when I just say like I'm buying something in US dollars, I know it's going to be more expensive because Canadian dollars don't exchange at the same rate. So in a way, I often thought that it was good for me because when people are paying US dollars to support me, when I get the download at the end of the month, I actually get more than what's on the ticket price because the exchange works in my favor in that way. Um,
Right.
the other thing that I find that Patreon has done, and I don't want this to turn into a big rant about Patreon, but they now offer people the opportunity, or creators the opportunity, to turn on annual subscriptions. So instead of supporting me at $1 a month, for example, you could support me at $12 for the year, one and done.
Yeah.
I don't want that as a creator. I can't track my business that well if I don't know month to month what's doing well and driving more patrons. Uh,
Yeah.
if everybody just subscribed at once, I mean, one, I know not everybody's going to do it. So you're not going to have your entire patronage just all give you one big chunk. But I don't like there's a very good reason why most businesses don't pay annually in one chunk, because
Yeah.
it's not easy for people to manage. People don't have that kind of overhead. Like there's just a lot of stuff that goes into that. And while I think that there might be some clubs or other kinds of things that might benefit from that on Patreon, podcasting is not something that I'm going to go in that route, because like you could subscribe for a year and something could happen where I don't podcast for half the year. Maybe I get sick.
Yeah.
Like, there's lots of things that could come
Yeah.
up on that. And I don't want to have that kind of money sitting around. Like, what's the point of having it if I have to then be careful not to spend it if something goes wrong and I can't fulfill the promise of doing those podcasts, right? So for
Exactly.
me,
Yeah.
the benefit to Patreon and most crowdfunding is increasing that bottom tier, that $1 level, because it's consistent, it's hands off. Like once people set it up, as long as their PayPal or credit card remains valid, then Patreon just takes that $1, $2, $4, whatever it is that you signed up to support. They just take it every month. You don't have to think about it. And then you usually get access to like a Discord or bonus audio, or like you have those kind of benefits coming to you. And then you get the pat yourself on the back and know that you're supporting an independent creator. Like it just, that kind of stuff is, I think, the strength of Patreon. And I know they have to grow, but I do sometimes feel like some of the changes are, I hesitate to say left field, because there's obviously a wide variety of creators on Patreon. And
Yeah.
so I'm not one of those people that's going to benefit from these changes, but there probably is quite a few people that are, because I don't feel like Patreon does anything willy-nilly. From what I've gathered from their communications and the way that they approach business and the podcast interviews that I've heard with Jack Conte, which I highly encourage anybody to go track down, because he's a very knowledgeable dude, and a creator himself, musician. He, as the CEO, like he really just kind of outlines, yes, as a business, they have to grow. Yes, they have shareholders and stuff they have to answer to, but he is not interested in making life more difficult for creators. If anything, he wants the opposite. And there has been moments, I don't remember the exact example, but there was something that they tried to roll out and Patreon just collectively said, please don't. All the creators were just like, let's not do that. And Patreon like, okay, we heard you. Thanks for the feedback. We won't do that, And so that is a nice kind of mode of operation, I think, for Patreon.
Right. Yeah.
But moving into the pick, actually, this week, the research I did online led me to a Business Insider article. Yes, Disney Plus is 4K. Here's what you need to know. And I was concerned about the TV in the living room and not having my internet come into the living room. My internet comes into the office. And so I'd have to run Cat5 cable, like either along or under my baseboards in my apartment, to get a Ethernet cable to my television. I was worried that the Wi-Fi would not be strong enough. However, this article kind of breaks down how you need to go about looking for 4K content. Usually that content is flagged with like a Dolby Digital or a 4K HDR. It'll have some sort of little symbol on it that will indicate to you that is going to be 4K. Your television, which is something I'm getting used to, is smart enough to change its mode depending on what content is being fed into it. For example, if I watch Netflix on the Xbox, I have two ways. I can watch it on the Roku TV or I can watch it via the Xbox. So if I watch Netflix on the Xbox, it gives me standard definition and the TV stays in standard definition. If I switch to play Halo, it switches to game mode because it knows, despite the fact that I'm on the Xbox, the feed, the content that's coming in is of a different resolution and quality and requires a different thing. It's very cool. So usually your smart TV or smart box, whether that's, whatever set-top box you want to have, that is going to manage what signal is being sent to the TV, and the TV is then going to figure out what it needs to do. The only thing that you have to worry about on the other side of that is your download speed. And this article recommends 25 megabits per second. And I think I have 100 symmetrical. So I should be good. Even if the Wi-Fi slows down by 50%, I'm still another 25 megabytes above the minimum for 4K streaming. So I shouldn't have a problem. I know some purists out there are going to be like, well, it's not just your connection. It's also the connection that your pipe has to the rest of the world. But being in North America and in a decently sized city here in Atlantic, Canada, I'm not too worried about that. My streaming quality is pretty good. My download and internet quality is excellent. So I'm not too worried about that. I don't think I'm going to necessarily notice. I don't have a 4K Blu-ray player to compare it to. That would be the best way, because then it's lossless. Your bandwidth is just as long as it's just whatever HDMI cord you're using. So That's fine. But this article and a number of other articles in that realm, I found this one the most helpful and straightforward. Another thing that you could look for was also like, hey, what movies are in 4K? Like, what things are in 4K and where are they? Like, what service? Is it Netflix or Amazon or Disney Plus? Like, what has the 4K content that you want to see? Whether that's a film that you want, an older movie maybe, all that kind of stuff. But we'll have the link to the Disney Plus article, because that is where I'm going to be spending some time over the next little while in the show notes for this week. That wraps up this episode of the Citadel Cafe. You can get more information about the show and some of the things that Megan and I talked about at thecitadelcafe.com. Music for the show was composed by Kevin MacLeod. You can email us at thecitadelcafe@gmail.com with those Xbox game recommendations. Find the show by name on Twitter. You can subscribe for free on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and YouTube. Word of mouth, however, is the easiest way to support the show. It's free. Just tell a friend about the Citadel Cafe and where they can go to listen to it. My name is Joel Duggan. You can find everything I am doing online, including my illustration and design portfolio, at joelduggan.com. You can check out my other podcasts all about Minecraft at thespawnchunks.com. And of course, follow me at Joel Duggan on social media. And I will point you towards twitch.tv/JoelDuggan, where I'm playing a lot of Minecraft, but I'm looking forward to whatever next adventure is coming down the tubes. Megan, where can people find you online?
People can find me online on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok at Megan Townsend.
You've been listening to the Citadel Cafe, where we are fast, easy, and cheap, but you can only pick two.